Hi, and welcome to Technology Tools to Up Your Teaching Game. I'm Becky Reniger. I'm a gifted specialist and coordinator for Milton Union Schools. This is my 17th year in gifted education, and I'm also the current chair of the teacher division for OAGC. I'm glad you've joined my session, and I hope that you can find some great technology tools to help you differentiate for your students in your classroom. So let's get started.
As we begin our session, it's important to think about the population of students that we are planning differentiation for. What is it that makes gifted learners different from typical learners? Take a moment and add your thoughts in the comment box to the right. Gifted students can be as different from one another as they can be from the entire population, but that said, there are still some common characteristics of gifted students as learners that will have implications for us as teachers in how we differentiate for them. So some things that we want to take a look at, these are some characteristics identified in Growing Up Gifted that are common to gifted learners. So the first is insatiable intellectual curiosity. These kids are always wanting to know how and why, and they seemingly can be a never-ending well of questions. We can capitalize on that curiosity, and we can support that curiosity through the use of technology tools, giving them access to more information as they have the ability through the internet. Independence in work and study. This can be true for some gifted students. Some students need more support with their executive functioning skills. They need assistance with getting started, managing time. The good news is there's an app for that. There is technology that can help support that need for gifted students. On the flip side, those students that do have independence in their work and study and they're highly motivated, that can be a great factor for as we're differentiating through the use of technology to keep them going along that learning path that we're laying out for them. Diversity of interests and abilities. Gifted students, just because they're gifted in one area does not mean that they're gifted in all areas. So for a student that's identified as a superior cognitive ability student, that child may or may not be great at math, or they may or may not be a strong reader. Oftentimes, gifted learners can also have a learning disability that makes some of those pieces hard. One of the myths about gifted kids that is kind of prolific among educators, parents, the general population, is that gifted students are great at everything. And that puts a lot of pressure on these kids that they recognize that they're not great at everything, but they feel that they're supposed to be. And so that's kind of one of those ideas and attitudes that pushes them towards some perfectionisms, towards some underachievement and some other issues. But not only do they have a diversity of abilities, which in and of itself is a reason for differentiation, but they also have a diversity of interests. There are some very interesting things that gifted kids can find themselves sucked into. One of my fourth grade students last year was very interested in the Titanic, and he started chasing down conspiracy theories about Titanic, and he showed me all kinds of interesting information, and we had a lot of resulting conversations about, determining accurate sources and all of those little pieces. But keep in mind that diversity of interests as we're planning and differentiating for our students, so we want to keep those interests in mind. Creativeness and inventiveness. Technology can be a fantastic tool for developing student creativity and giving them tools to creatively produce. I'm going to show you some links later on tools that can help develop that. Also, in terms of giftedness, the high expectations of themselves and others that often leads to feelings of frustration. Because they hold those high expectations of themselves, we need to help temper the work that we're doing with them so that they can learn that it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, and what to do when they don't know what to do. And then the last characteristic is that interest in problem solving and applying concepts. So the interests that students have in that problem solving, we can introduce them to some great tools online where they can apply the concepts that they're learning in different ways. As we consider differentiation for gifted students, we have to remember that one of the key differences that we're dealing with is the speed at which they consume information and the way that they consume information. Stephanie Tolan has a fantastic analogy about giftedness and the ways that these highly able children are thinking and learning. She says that highly gifted children learn not only faster than others, but also differently. Standard teaching methods take complex subjects and break them into small, simple bits presented one at a time. Highly gifted minds can consume large amounts of information in a single gulp, and they thrive on complexity. Giving these children simple bits of information is like feeding an elephant one blade of grass at a time. He will starve before he even realizes that anyone is trying to feed him. As we think about planning for gifted students, we want to make sure that we are providing them opportunities to capitalize on their ability to learn more quickly and with more complexity. We want to provide something that is fodder for them intellectually so that they don't become bored in our classes. I know it's a terrible word, but we don't want them to be stagnant in their learning. Every child deserves to learn something new every day. And as we increase that ability for them to have access to more challenging content at a different pace, we're really doing a service for them and meeting their needs intellectually. According to the National Research Center on the Gifted and Talented, gifted elementary students have mastered between 40 and 50% of the school year's content in several subject areas before the school year begins. As they progress through school, many underachieve, failing to develop the study skills and persistence necessary to succeed in challenging coursework, as everything comes so easily to them at first. It's important to realize as we are planning for gifted students in our classroom and we are differentiating for them, that they need to encounter acceptable, appropriate challenge early on. I can't tell you how many times I have been in the process of accelerating students and having the conversation with the parents that the students are not receiving that challenge that they need in order to be successful. And I say that in respect to they need challenge early on so that they have an opportunity to develop the skills and strategies and have the supports to know what to do when they don't know what to do. I tell the parents that your children are learning something one way or another. They're learning that school is easy and they don't have to try, or they're learning that school and learning can be challenging and they can work through those challenges to be successful. I would much rather a child struggled in elementary school and learned how to get through those struggles than I do a child who goes through elementary, middle, and high school floating, and maybe they hit that AP class that they don't know what to do, or they hit the college level class and they've not developed the study skills or the strategies or the resilience to work through challenge. It's so important as we plan for students to give them those appropriately challenging activities with appropriate supports early on so that they can have those tools later in life. Let's pause for a moment and consider briefly the different characteristics of gifted learners that are impacting our decisions as educators. We need to think about what kind of tools and educational adaptations they're going to need in order to be successful in our classrooms. So think for a moment and respond in the box about what makes this challenging for you as a teacher. As we think about some of the challenges that teachers face in differentiating for gifted kids, it's important to think about how technology can help us overcome some of those obstacles. For example, the limited number of resources in classrooms, the limited amount of time and teacher bandwidth for planning and organizing differentiated instruction for gifted kids. We know that technology can provide us with tools that when we carefully select them and use them appropriately, we can increase student engagement, help students construct new learning, and assist teachers with the process of differentiation. As we consider technology as a tool for meeting the needs of our gifted kids, we want to make sure that we're using those tools appropriately, that we have the right tool for the job. Right now, more than ever, schools are using distance learning in a lot of new ways, especially with COVID, with different quarantine situations, and some districts even are completely virtual. So we've been thrown into this place as educators where we're scrambling to find the right tools to do the things that we could usually do in person. So you wouldn't use a screwdriver to cut a piece of wood. The tools that you select need to be selected with some consideration in mind for the job that they complete and the effectiveness to which they do that. So you want to think about, how does a tool support the intended learning objective? How does that tool engage the learner in the construction or expression of learning? Is this a tool that will streamline the teaching and learning process? And how will my students benefit from the use of this tool? Thinking about our roles as educators and lesson planning masters, consider where technology can help you and your students. Think about the different jobs that you have as a teacher, providing assessment and feedback, differentiating and mastery learning, facilitating the learning process, instructing and communicating with students, parents, and others, creative production, for your students to creatively produce, for you to encourage that production, for you to produce things creatively as well, and classroom management, keeping it all together.
We're going to take the next few minutes for me to go over some of my favorite technology tools. These are ones that I use in my classroom and that I've used in the past that have helped me and my students along the way. There's no way I can possibly cover all of the different technology tools that are out there, but I will have some links for you to follow at the end so that you can explore and find the ones that best meet your needs. Thank you for joining our presentation today. I hope you found some great tools that you can use in your classroom to help your gifted students. If you have any feedback for me, or if you have any questions or answers, I'll be in the live question and answer session, or you can email me at reniger@muschools.com. Thanks again, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.